Lake Powell is at its highest level in more than 3 years. That's encouraging news, and it follows some wet winters in the west, but a La Nina is forecast for this winter and spring, which usually means less rain and snowpack in the state. Joining us now is Catherine Sorensen, Director of Research at the Kyle Center for Water Policy at ASU's Morrison Institute. Good to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We usually have you on with tales of woe, and the reservoirs are low. Lake Mead, Lake Powell, 42% full now for Lake Powell.
Yeah, let's take good news when we can.
Yes.
A couple of things are happening here that are really good and encouraging. One is we had great snowpack this last year. There was actually also quite a bit of rain in parts of Colorado over the summer that made a material difference in Lake Powell, and that's really good news. The other thing is that the states of California, Arizona, and Nevada are using historically low amounts of water out of Lake Mead in efforts to bolster those water levels and avoid further shortages. So those are all wins, which is nice.
Yeah, I want to get to those conservation methods and efforts in a moment here. But as far as Lake Powell is concerned, and highest level in just last year, it was almost half as full as it is right now?
You know, it's good news, but we need to take it in measure because it's still only 42%.
Yes.
Right? And the Colorado River system can be volatile. Like you said, there's a La Nina year coming up. We don't know what that will mean for snowpack. If we're not careful, it's very easy for us to use too much water in a year where there's not enough snowpack, and we go right back to square one where we're looking at really deep shortages.
And you mentioned volatility. I think it was down big from like 2021 to 2023, and now for the last year or so, it's up big. I think these are big changes here.
These are big changes, and they're necessary, right? It is really important that the lower basin states use less water on the whole to forestall deeper shortages in Lake Mead. It's also important that the upper basin states, Colorado, Wyoming, Utah, New Mexico, that they contribute to solving the problem as well. We're all dependent on this river, and we need a solution that benefits all of us.
You mentioned Lake Mead. This story is obviously about Lake Powell that we want to focus on because the numbers show 42%. That looks pretty good compared to where it's been.
Yeah.
What about Lake Mead?
Yeah, so Lake Mead looks okay, not great. Lake Mead was falling as well, pretty precipitously, but because we've been using less water and because we've had a decent year of snowpack, water levels are what I would call middling. They could be worse. They're not great.
Why aren't they as great as Lake Powell?
Well, the two reservoirs are conjunctively managed, and the Bureau of Reclamation is very careful to release certain amounts of water over the course of the year. Those releases are based on how high Lake Mead is and how high Lake Powell is. And so when there's too much water in Lake Powell or a relatively large amount of water in Lake Powell, they'll release more into Mead. And when there's not enough in Powell, they'll release less.
Interesting.
So you can imagine the last few years has been a little bit crazy,
yes.
Right? And it is possible that we will get a relatively small release of water from Lake Powell this year as well.
And that La Nina is going to be a factor here if it's a dry winter.
It probably will be.
Yeah. All right. As far as conservation measures, we talk so much on this program about this, and it seems like Arizona, Nevada, and California are kind of doing their part. It is making a difference, is it not?
It is, and it's really important to recognize that. That comes from a lot of hard work, a lot of negotiating, a lot of hand-wringing. No one wants to give up their water use, right? These are valuable enterprises. People grow crops with this water. They have industrial enterprises. No one wants to do that. So we should recognize how important it is that people have cut back.
And leaving water in Lake Mead obviously is a big deal, but there's some compensation, is there not?
There's a lot of compensation. That's the other side of this, is that the federal government stepped up big time and basically is compensating people, tribes, farmers, cities, mining companies, the whole gamut of stakeholders are being compensated to intentionally leave some of their water in Lake Mead. That's a really interesting point because that federal money won't last forever.
Yeah.
Depending on the federal government for continued bailouts is always going to be a dicey proposition.
And we've got 2026 coming along, and if I remember correctly, we have a whole new water compact, right?
Right. So we've got a federal election, federal money, the expiration of the operational guidelines for Lakes Powell and Mead. We've got 7 states plus the Republic of Mexico, 30 tribes. There's a lot in the mix.
There's a lot in the mix, and as you kind of referred to earlier, there is a structural deficit, is there not? I mean,
Yeah.
how do you can you fix that? I mean, how much conservation can fix that?
We can fix it, and we have to. The alternative is that we run these reservoirs dry, or that the federal government intervenes and picks winners and losers. And, you know, maybe Arizona comes out the winner in that, but maybe not.
We came close to that. If I remember correctly, the government basically said, get your act together or we'll do it for you.
Yeah, and that is an important role for the government to play, right? It's come in and kind of bully people around and say, hey, make this happen. The federal government doesn't want to make this decision either, right? Particularly not in an election year. They don't want to be in the business of saying who gets water and who doesn't. They very much want for the states and the Republic of Mexico to come to a solution. And it behooves all of us that they do.
Last question real quickly. I asked the logistics manager, Dale Rogers, if he was optimistic about the economy, and he said yes. Are you optimistic about the Colorado River?
I'm not. I'm not. I think that the discussions are at a very difficult place.
Yes.
They appear to be somewhat stuck. I think it is important that the federal government come in and play a larger role. I think that's needed right now. And we're coming into a La Nina year, so things look kind of tough.
Wow.
I'm not an optimist today. I normally am.
All right, well, encouraging news just went right down the river there.
Sorry.
Catherine Sorensen, again, Kyle Center, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks for including me.